to welcome you to our listeners. Calvin Purnell Jr., ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
So Tiff South, Alberta, Bertolino, Will Martin, this is the Career Seekers team, and we're just excited to have you here today. I know Tiffany, you and Tiffany have communicated, so I was telling Tiff, I said, you know, I'm going to lean on you here because she sent me a ton of notes and everything.
She really did. It's no joke.
So I'm like, you know what? Anybody that does that type of work, you go ahead on it.
It's the Tiffany Career Seekers.
Well, it's good. First of all, it's so happy to see you. So good to see you again. And I think the first time, we've been following each other on social media for a little while. And first of all, your consistency is something to be admired. But just before we get into it, just introduce yourself to the listeners and just talk a little bit about anything that you want to touch on before we kind of get started.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the short version of my long story. So my name is Calvin Purnell. Born and raised in Philadelphia, and I am the author of Polished and the founder of CP Speaks, which is the organization that I founded so that way I can be a motivational speaker as well as be an author to produce my products that I had, which is speaking and writing. So I've been in information technology for about 23 years now, and about 8 years into my career, I became an incarcerated felon. And it was just like, wow, like a rocker, all my fault. I'm not going to blame anybody for it. It's my fault. I made a mistake, paid the price for it, but I bounced back. So when I got out of jail, what I did was I had to figure out how could I brand myself to get myself back into information technology because nothing less was going to work for me. And what I did was I just took letters of recommendations from previous employers and I utilized those to brand myself so that way I can show, yes, I'm a convicted felon, but I have these credentials behind me, my success stories behind me, so that way I can just launch myself back out into information technology. And a friend of mine, good friend of mine, Bryant Myers, he reached out and said, hey, we have an opportunity at the National Park Service. Do you want it? I said, yes. Went for the interview, was there for 10 years, transitioned out of that position into the role that I'm in now with IBM, and I manage a team of engineers there for a product called Mass 360.
You know what? You networked and you used your network and leveraged it and got another opportunity. But you say something that I speak to career seekers about often. It's brand or be branded.
Right.
Ooh,
and you chose
that,
to brand yourself.
Yes.
Versus having people brand you as something that you weren't.
Right.
And that's something that's really important, I believe, to career seekers in any situation. When you have to present yourself as something, or people will start putting you in a box.
Exactly.
So I wow, incredible.
Yeah, you have to break out of the box. You have no time to sit in the box at all. Like, I'm nervous right now, but I'm fidgety, so I'm trying to break out of my box and being nervous.
That's all right. It's family here. It's family here. We're not gonna bite. We're not gonna bite.
You don't look it. You look polished.
Thank you.
There you go. Well done. Well
I
done.
got that. Yeah, I got that. I was expecting him to say that.
So I think one of the things that you talked about, so you mentioned that it was not halfway through, but 8 years into your career that you had this significant shift happen. So can you talk, and I know that some of our listeners have challenges, various types of challenges that they have to overcome. If you could give someone a tangible piece of advice, let's say they just got home, they know that they had this career before they came out, what is one of the first things that they should try to do in order to get themselves back to the place that they want to be as far as their careers goes?
So for me, it's being spiritual, praying. I give it up to God every day because without God, I couldn't have done anything that I've done to this point. And just the biggest part, that's the biggest part for me. But the second part is not giving up on yourself. And that's my tagline. You cannot give up on yourself because as soon as you throw the towel in for yourself, you're done. It's a wrap for you. So you just cannot give up on yourself. If you know that you had these opportunities and you've been successful in the past, you can do it again. You just need to tap into those talents and those gifts that you have to make it happen for yourself.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about first of all, here goes, this is a shot of Polished, everyone. It's a beautiful book, and these shoes, this brother, in his shoes and his suits, always polished, literally.
But I see he has a stack of books over there, so we're definitely going to probably take those off his hands. But in fact, I think we probably should. I tell you what, career seekers, if you're listening, well, I know you're listening, but we're going to make an announcement on the US Career Seekers Twitter feed, and also on the all of our social media accounts. How about that? At Tiff South, at Alberta Recruits, and maybe, just maybe, the offer may put one of these items in your hand. So it's the Career Seekers Show.
So you see, I got my little notes here. I'm a little nerd.
She
But,
really
I do my research. I've been a student most
You're
of my
just
life.
thorough. You're not a nurse.
So I wanted. There was something that I saw in your book. It was you put some of the lines from your cover letter, and you talked about your experience working at McDonald's.
Yes.
And how that could translate to your career in the technology industry.
Right.
And I want you to talk a little bit, if you can, how do you translate those skills to make them applicable? They seem, if you, on first face value, I worked at McDonald's, this is not applicable, I want to go work in an office.
Yeah.
How does someone say, well, I want to make this transition to this career direction? How can I make my skills sound transferable?
Okay, so McDonald's, that experience is straight up customer service. As far as I'm concerned, every job is customer service related because you're dealing with people. And what I did was at 15, 16 years old, working at McDonald's, I was an introvert and I'm still an introvert. And I had to break out of that box and learn how to speak to people and learn how to be nice to people because I was just straight face, straight up Philly, up and down, grilling all day, every day. So being in that situation, working at McDonald's, it was like, okay, now I need to be nice to people. So I'm going to be nice. And I presented myself as this person as being nice. And I had to use those skills and learn those skills and transition them into my field in information technology. And because I'm in information technology, everybody that I service is a customer. So utilizing those skills that I had at McDonald's, being nice, smiling, making sure that I satisfy those customers as much as I can, and making sure that they have a quality finished product at the end of whatever it is that I'm working on for them, it makes them happy. So that was my call, just making sure that they were happy.
So it's basically it's like a translation, right? So
Right.
you know if you're serving food to a customer, there's something that they're expecting at the end of that transaction.
Right.
If you're working in an office environment, if it's a project, if it's an Excel spreadsheet, if it's an email, memo, or whatever it is, that your boss, your supervisor, your colleague is also a client, is a customer, and you have to give them that product that they're asking for.
Definitely.
All right,
Yeah.
right. So mentoring. I know that's so part of one of the reasons you wrote Polished, is to kind of give some of the mentoring and career advice that you learned along the way,
Right.
and that either you learned it on your own or someone helped pass it on to you. How do I go about getting a mentor? If I don't have a mentor right now, how do I go about getting a mentor?
Okay. First thing is having focus and a vision of what you want to do with your life and your career. Once you have that focus and that vision, you see that, and then what you need to do is find people who are doing what you want to do. Once you find those individuals who are doing what you want to do, at that point, you need to find out where they go, find out where they work, find out the type of things that they like. And once you find out that information, you kind of like want to be a stalker.
I was just going to say.
But you want to do it in
Stalker.
gentle. You want to be gentle. You want to be able to ease your way into that process because you have to introduce yourself to this person. Let them know, hey, I've been doing my homework on you. I see that you're in this particular career, and this is where I want to go. I have 0 experience, or I have 5 years experience, but I need something else that's going to catapult me in my career. Can you help me?
And you know, Calvin, it's so interesting now because you were speaking about a situation, let's just say 20 years out. But now with social media and LinkedIn and tools like that, you can actually get in contact with people.
Oh,
like
definitely.
before, you might have had to show up at their office or meet them at
Like,
an event. But now you can actually reach out to someone electronically and say, hey, listen, I
Right.
really would love 15 minutes of your time.
Right.
And so for people that are listening, getting a mentor has never been easier than it is right now.
Right.
You know, so.
And I have one more point to make.
Yes.
With social media, you can get a virtual mentor. So one of my real life mentor right now today, Dr. Shantae Bishop, she was a virtual mentor for me. I listened to her podcast continuously, religiously, and the information that she was pouring into people, I was like, wow, I need this information, and I was hungry, and I had to grind and drive and just continue to listen to it. And now she is my mentor. I speak to her regularly. You know, we have conversations, and I'm a part of one of her groups. So, you know, you just have to go out there. And the other part of social media and finding mentors, you don't necessarily have to have that mentor in your ear because people offer up free information on social media regularly. I do it every day.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the fact that you have a female
Yes.
as a mentor.
I have
So
quite a
that
few
just-
mentors. Yeah.
So our listeners, we've been talking about mentorship and networking. It doesn't just have to be your same sex. It could be, your same gender. It could
Or
be,
exactly race, the same in different
Absolutely.
industries.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you talk, and one of the things you talk about is your invisible board of advisors.
Yes.
Right, and that is it's exactly that concept
Right.
of accessing information from different people in different places to get you some of that information. Who is on your invisible board of advisors?
Okay, so first and foremost, Jesus Christ. And this is out of order. Napoleon Hill,
I was
Eckhart
going to
Tolle.
say, I was reading, well, Think and Grow Rich, and he speaks about an invisible
That's where I got that from.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Let's see. Thich Nhat Hanh, he's a Buddhist monk. I'm a Christian, but I follow practices from Buddhism, from Buddhists because it's mindfulness and awareness. And I spent 5 years in anger management therapy. Mindfulness and awareness has brought me back down to life.
Therapy is the truth.
So yes,
The truth.
my mom and dad, my grandparents. So they are on my board regularly, and I have conference calls with my mom and dad just to give them updates every now and again on what's going on in my life. Things that my kids have done, things that I've done, things that they told me years ago what happened to me, and I was just like, yeah, you don't know anything, but I'm giving them props because I learned, I listened, but I didn't pay attention when I was a kid. But now that it's happening, it's just like, wow, they told me this was going to happen. I should have listened then. So anybody who's listening, take notes from your parents. I mean, they know what's going on. They really do, and they want the best for you. And that's what I tell my kids. I want the best for you. That's why I talk to you about the things that I talk to you about, raw, real, and uncut.
Man, your transparency is refreshing.
Absolutely.
It's really refreshing, man. I appreciate the way you share.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get into the book, Polished, just to hear some more of the stuff that you're saying. Or I could probably borrow Tiffany's, and it's already highlighted.
I got some notes in here, I got flags and everything. I got you covered. So one of the things that you talked about was and it's a specific piece of advice that I think it was your mom. You have a chapter in here that you list kind of things that you learned from your parents.
Oh yes, early on in the book. Yes.
And your mom, you mentioned that your mom was never afraid to go up to people and ask for what she wanted.
Right.
What
Wow.
she needed. How important
What
is
a
that
role
in
model.
your?
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
Being an introvert, like I still to this day, it's very rare that I'll go up to someone and ask them for something. Even being a kid, when I saw a girl that I like, I would never approach her. I would just wait for her to approach me. I'd put those vibes out there. Come get me, come get me. And then she would come get me. But, but over time, honing in on those skills that my mom has is having the ability to go out and ask for what she wants. That's huge, because if you want something, how are you going to get it? Realistically, you have to go ask for it. So she just has like the largest whats, and just will go up to anybody and have a conversation with her. And when I started picking up on that art, it gave me the ability to approach CEOs and have conversations with them and ask them, how did you become a CEO? What made you want to do these types of things? And a lot of CEOs took me under their wing and just was like, hey, I've never been asked this question before by anybody. I'm glad you asked. It's refreshing. It brings me back down to earth. So, hey, they want to give up information and help you out as much as possible.
The answer is always no if you don't ask.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to ask.
You don't ask, you don't get.
There you go. Closed mouths don't get fed, as my mom used to say. I'm trying to find it and I can't find it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's okay because we have so many other good things going on.
Okay.
So if you can pick one piece of advice from the book to share with people, because there's a lot of advice, sentence by sentence is like nuggets of information. What is the most important piece of career advice you think that you could share with someone?
I have to go back to my tagline. You cannot give up on yourself. You can't, because if you throw in the towel, you end up with nothing or less than what you actually deserve. Because everything that we envision for ourselves, we see ourselves out there. Like 5 years from now, this is what I see myself doing. You can't give up on yourself. If you give up on yourself, you're not going to get it. So that's the biggest piece.
And visualizing, it sounds like it's important for you to visualize where you want to be and then figure out what actions you need to take in order to get there.
Make a plan.
Yes.
Right.
So you work in information technology, which is an industry that is blowing up by the second, and there are so many different opportunities. If someone is interested in breaking into that industry, what would be a really good way for them to, if they have no technical background, how could they get started in getting a job in information technology?
I'd say start in the customer service area. If you can find an organization it doesn't have to be information technology driven, but it could be, because every organization has information technology in it somewhere. Start in the customer service division, or maybe even in the mailroom. Just start to find out little intricate ways to get into that place, and once you do that, you'll see different areas of information technology, because there's a huge umbrella, and you need to find out exactly what it is that you want to do in information technology. Once you figure that out, find a mentor. Find out who that person is, what they're doing, how did they get to that point where they are in their career, and of course, go back to school. Go to school. You need the education. There's so many things out here now that gives you opportunities to learn. What you have to do is just find those things, and it's free education. So what you can do at that point is go volunteer somewhere, offer up your time, just go sit underneath some people. You know, we have social media. People are showing you how to do things. I had a 2001 Lincoln Navigator, and my heater core went on it. And I found out it was a $2,000 job to repair it. Guess what I did? I went to YouTube. I YouTubed it. The guy had instructions on how to do it. He said, this is what you do. He streamlined it. And then he said, at the end of it, he says, now print out these instructions. 48 steps. So 48 steps you need to go through. And there was like a few hundred screws. I want to say about 500 screws. You drop down the steering column. You pull out the dashboard. You go up underneath the hood. You pull some things out. Follow step by step by step by step. The last step was number 48. He said, now follow these instructions backwards. I am not a mechanic, but I fixed that daggone car. I saved $2,000 for a $40 part.
Wow.
You know, it's interesting.
So many lessons in that.
It's interesting, you know, you mentioned education, and I think you're right on point. Education doesn't always have to be at a university,
right,
at a college, like, and especially in technology, like, there are ways to, I was at an event at Google's offices in Manhattan, and it was a per scholars event. And they were the people from Google were saying that the person that runs their Android department has never went to college, but they're just a whiz on that platform, and they're pretty much self-taught and you know, taught themselves off the internet and things, and they're at Google. Like, everyone wants to go to Google,
right? And
this is Google just saying, look, the person that runs our Android department doesn't even have a college degree.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not saying don't go to school, people. Don't get that misconstrued. But all I'm saying is that there are so many ways in today's world to get education.
Yes.
For someone to sit back and say, I can't go to school or I can't get the education. This man just fixed a car off of YouTube.
I can't believe it.
Exactly.
48 steps, too. That's not a simple task.
It isn't. It isn't.
I don't know if I would have done
2 days to do it. 8 hours first, 7 hours the second. But I had passion, and I was driven to do it and to get it done. I needed my vehicle because I had to get my family around.
$1,960 saved.
Right.
And when I found out the part was $40, I said, "The heck with that! I'm not paying anybody $2,000 to do it." I had an air compressor, and I needed to go buy air ratchet. I went to Home Depot, grabbed that. I made it happen.
So that actually sounds a lot like your story. Is you don't necessarily have the tools, obviously, in your hands when you start,
right? But
you find a way to make what you do have work and get those things that you need in order to bring that stuff together.
Another thing that I didn't know how to do, that I had to learn how to do. 15 years old, nothing but a pair of clippers for Christmas from my dad. He said, "Merry Christmas, learn how to cut hair. I'm tired of giving you money." I've been a barber for 25 years.
Oh my gosh, you are a renaissance
I cut
man,
NBA players' hair. I cut a lot of my friends' hair. You know, random people come in from LA, from my friend who's a barber in LA. They hit me up. And, hey, what hotel are you at? What time do you need me there? I go.
There you go. So it sounds like...
We should have had you come a little earlier.
I mean, I might need a little lineup in the back here.
Right. Too.
No, so I really want to know, what is next? What's on your next goal list for yourself? You have a published book. You've established this company for yourself. You're doing really well in your career. What is the next thing that you want to see for yourself?
So currently, more books. You know, if I could sit at home and just write all day, I would do it, hands down. You know, if I could afford to do it, I would do it. But right now I can't. But right now I'm working on 3 more books. Polish is a 3-part series, so I have the second and the third coming out. My goal is to have the second book of Polish submitted to the publisher by the end of the year. And the third book, I'm not going to put a timetable on that. And then the 4th book that I'm writing is dealing with single fathers. Not going to go into too much detail on that, but outside of that, you know, that's my big deal. And to be a motivational speaker and just to continue to put messages out there, go back to schools, talk to children. Elementary school, I just had that first experience last week, talking to 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th graders. Enlightened me. It told me, hey, Polish, the Young Professionals Guide for Success, needs to get dumbed down and put into elementary school, middle school terms, so that way they can understand it, because they ask the best questions. Started off in the 2nd grade, and these kids were just throwing questions at me, left and right.
So speaking of questions, we probably got about 90 seconds here.
Okay.
I'd like to ask you, how our listeners can get in contact with you, what's the best means of getting in contact with you, and then any closing remarks that you have for people that are out here actively looking for employment.
Okay. All right. So to get in touch with me, email is cp@cpspeaks.com. Website is www.cpspeaks.com. Social media on you can just search for me, Calvin Purnell Jr. Instagram, it's Mindfully Speaking, but you search Calvin Purnell Jr. it'll come up. Twitter, CP Speaks, but Calvin Purnell Jr. will come up. LinkedIn, straight up Calvin Purnell Jr. Facebook, Calvin Purnell Jr. And to answer your question, people who are seeking career opportunities, again, just figure out what your vision is. Find out what you want to do in life. Focus on that, and then just go for it. Get some education, however you choose to seek it, and just ball out. Have fun. Learn.
We really appreciate you, man.
Thank
It
you.
was a great 30 minutes with you today. Thank you so much for coming out to the Career Seekers Show.
Thank you.
Wow, incredible. Calvin Purnell Jr. I expect all of you guys to reach out to him on your social media feeds and just connect with this man. This gentleman is incredible. It's the Career Seekers Show, live here on WPPM LP Philadelphia. We are wrapping up. So I'd like to thank Philly Cam. I'd like to thank Tiffany, Southerland, Alberta Bertolino, Will Martin, and of course our guest today, Ricardo Maldonado, Calvin Purnell Jr. It's been a great show. We do it every Wednesday from 4 to 5 here on Philly Cam at 106.5 in Philly, or you can catch us at the East Coast Executives Facebook page. This has been incredible, man. It's been an unbelievable week. I was really excited to have these gentlemen here today. And I just want to thank all of you for tuning in. Facebook followers, live stream listeners, and just our listeners on 106.5. We just appreciate you so very much. Philly, we'll be back at you next week. I got a special guest next week. I'm not even going to tell you who it is. Just tune in next week. Or check us on our social media feeds. All right? It's going to be beautiful. Yo, Gee, is it a wrap?
It's a wrap, go.
Let's do it.
All right.
Wow, that was fun.
I was all ready to remind you to do that.
We
I
are
was on
all
it.
wrapped up here. This was
That was
awesome.
really great.
Say hi, everyone. We're still live on Instagram. We got
WPPM
more
LP
professional
Philadelphia.
videographers in the building. See y'all next
WPPM LP
Wednesday.
Philadelphia.
Wow. That was good.
You were not nervous at all. Come on.
I speak out of nervousness.
Yeah.
Realistically, I do. But I'm breaking out. I've been in Toastmasters for a little bit, trying to hone in on,
Okay.
the skill
Yeah,
of
it
reducing
is.
the nervousness.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.